I extend my deepest thanks to every one of you taking the time to read this story. Your engagement and openness to my journey fill me with gratitude, and I hope this narrative touches your heart as profoundly as it has shaped my own. Never did I envision myself standing at the crossroads of my life, sharing a chapter so raw and transformative. For years, I held an unshakable conviction that my marriage was a bastion of resilience, forged through shared trials, financial struggles, countless sleepless nights, and mutual sacrifices. I believed loyalty was the indestructible bond that tethered us. Yet I was painfully mistaken. The unraveling began quietly, with my wife lingering at her workplace long after hours, citing pressing projects. I trusted her wholeheartedly, admiring her dedication and ambition. But as weeks turned to months, subtle signs piled up. Her phone was always on silent, messages hidden from my sight. She'd slip into another room to answer calls, her voice barely audible. My gut churned with unease long before my mind could accept the truth. She was unfaithful. The devastating reality hit me one evening when I decided to surprise her at her office with a warm meal. Instead of finding her buried in paperwork, I saw her in the parking lot, leaning against her boss's car, her laughter echoing in a way I hadn't heard in years. Then he kissed her, and she didn't resist. The anguish of that moment defies words, like a blade twisting in my chest. A decade of love, trust, and commitment collapsed in an instant. I didn't confront them. I drove home in silence, my hands trembling on the wheel, my heart a storm of betrayal and rage. When she returned that night, she looked me in the eyes and wove a tale of a taxing workday. That lie cut deeper than the kiss, confirming she'd chosen deceit over honesty. I held my tongue, neither yelling nor revealing what I'd seen. Instead, I began mapping out my next moves. If she thought she could betray me without consequence, she was gravely wrong. Fate, however, had its own design. Her boss had a daughter, let's call her Elise, whom I'd met at a few company events. She was young, confident, and strikingly different from her father. What stood out was her open contempt for him, his arrogance, his hypocrisy, his need to control others. Weeks later, I encountered Elise at a quiet cafe. She noticed my haggard look and asked, "Rough day?" I nearly laughed at the understatement. I didn't divulge everything, but I let slip enough. My wife was no longer the person I thought I knew. Elise's gaze sharpened as she murmured, "I'm guessing my father's involved." That moment marked a shift. She despised her father for his wrongs, and I resented him for what he'd taken from me. Two wounded hearts, united by circumstance. Our conversations became a sanctuary. Hours spent unraveling the pain of betrayal, the fragility of trust, and the wounds inflicted by those we held dear. As we shared our stories, a connection grew. Elise's compassion reminded me of my own value when I felt invisible. She showed me I wasn't merely the fool my wife's actions had made me feel. Then, we crossed a threshold, not out of passion, but from a shared sorrow that evolved into something profound. Elise and I became each other's solace. She sought to wound her father for his sins. I wanted to retaliate against my wife and her boss for their treachery. Together, we devised a way to do so. I didn't hide our bond. I made sure my wife learned the truth. One evening, as she walked through the door, I left my phone on the counter unlocked, with messages from Elise in plain view. Her face paled. "You're with her," she cried. For the first time in months, I met her eyes with steady resolve and said, "I simply walked the road you laid out." The fallout was immediate. She ran to her boss, tears streaming. And when he discovered it was his own daughter, he unraveled. Their secret affair crumbled instantly. My wife was left humiliated, her boss shattered. Elise, though, found liberation. She confided that she'd never challenged her father so boldly before. My wife begged for forgiveness, claiming her affair was a fleeting mistake, pleading to repair our broken bond. But I was done. Trust, once broken, cannot be easily restored. I filed for divorce. Her boss tried to intimidate me, hurling threats to silence me, but the truth had already spread like wildfire. Their social circle knew everything. His own daughter had helped expose him. His reputation at work plummeted, a wound he couldn't heal. My wife, abandoned by the man she thought she loved, was left utterly alone. As for me, I didn't rush toward happiness or dive into a new romance. For the first time in years, I felt in control of my own destiny. Betrayal had broken me, but it also reshaped me, stronger, wiser, and determined never to settle for less than I deserve. Some might say two wrongs don't make a right, and they may have a point. But when someone betrays you, sometimes the most powerful response isn't anger or violence. It's turning their world upside down with the truth. My wife's affair with her boss led me to connect with his daughter. And when the dust settled, they were left in ruins while I walked away free. Yet, the story doesn't end with my departure. The last time I saw my wife, she stood on the porch of our old home, eyes red, voice quivering. "Please," she whispered. "Don't leave me like this. We can fix this." I looked at her, no longer seeing the woman I'd sworn to love, but the one who'd torn our life apart. Every smile she'd shared with her boss, every lie she'd told, every late night she'd claimed was work, it all came rushing back. I realized her regret wasn't for her betrayal, but for being exposed. Her boss avoided my eyes entirely. He once called, spewing threats, claiming I'd ruined his family. But we both knew the truth, he'd destroyed mine first. When his daughter turned against him, he saw how fragile his carefully constructed world was. Elise, too, moved on with her life. We didn't stay together, but we remained friends. She told me I'd given her the courage to finally stand up to her father. And that was enough for me. The true victory wasn't our brief connection. It was emerging from the wreckage stronger, while they were left to face the consequences of their own deceit. Once again, I thank you, dear readers, for sharing in this deeply personal journey. Your time and empathy mean more than words can express, and I hope this story leaves you with a sense of resilience and truth.